Welcome. Hello. It's time for Blocktalk. Oh, that's what I'm missing. What Bitcoin block are we on? It's been so long since we've done this show. Things have changed for the better, of course. But let's see. We're on Bitcoin block 504095, and yeah, we're coming up on the halfway mark of the difficulty change, which will be yeah, an exciting time for sure. Our sponsor for the show today is CoinCards. So if you have some Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies that you're wanting to spend on some goods and services, these guys have over 200, maybe more. I don't know the exact number. Different gift cards you can buy with cryptocurrencies, and yeah, it's a great service that allows you to purchase everyday things with cryptocurrencies. As usual, the live chat is going, and it's a really buzzing spot. So if you have any questions, I'll see if we can address them for those tuning in online. Usual, the live chat is going. And we have our hearing ourselves, of course. Always a little bit of technical difficulties on the show, as per usual. But welcome. I'm Alex, your intrepid host, and we have an exciting full basement here of the Ethereum meetup and yeah, just the general crypto community in Vancouver here. So we're really excited to have on the show today is the Quantstamp people. So I guess we'll start with introducing Richard. Hey, Richard.
Hey, I'm the CEO of Quantstamp. Yeah, really nice to be here. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And who do we have on the show with you here today?
So we have, I think we have Krishna, Casper, and Leo. Krishna is actually on your side. All right.
Yeah, we have a change of pace here to actually have some people IRL on the show. Yeah, so we can definitely harass them a little bit harsher, I think, because they're sitting right next to us. But we'll see how the day goes. So who else is calling in here? We have
What city are they in?
Oh yes, Richard. Where are you calling in from today?
So I'm from calling in from San Francisco. And actually, Casper and Leo are also calling in from San Francisco. I just brought them in for they're actually in the house like that, like nearby.
Last minute.
What other roles do you guys have? Some developers here?
Yeah, well, we are senior software engineers. We both have expertise in software verification and modeling, and we want to use that, our knowledge, and to make smart contracts safer for the whole community.
Yeah, I guess we'll get right into it, Richard. I guess what is the elevator pitch of what Quantstamp is and hopes to achieve?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a true believer in Ethereum. I really think that it's gonna replace and improve a lot of real-world businesses and give value to users, because we have blockchain applications. Most of the value goes to users because it's like a peer-to-peer network, and with smart contracts, you can have a lot of business use cases for that. The problem is that smart contracts are very difficult in terms of security, and right now in the Ethereum ecosystem, there's not that much good tooling for normal people to be able to see if a smart contract is secure or not. And also, for developers, it's hard for normal developers who come from like Facebook and Google to be able to test the security of smart contracts. So what Quantstamp does is we make it easier by using formal verification to check smart contracts.
Yeah, I guess with how young and fledgling the industry is, there aren't a lot of best practices that are established, or at least even kind of advertised. A lot of people maybe holding their cards close, but yeah, like what are some examples of, I guess, standards that have kind of been already pushed out for Ethereum?
Yeah, so right now Ethereum itself is trying to improve the language. So recently they did like Byzantium and Metropolis, which actually fixed one of the bugs, one of the potential attacks on Ethereum, which is when you exceed 1024 number of calls on the stack, it can actually be an attack. Now that's been fixed. So that's kind of an example of a language type updates. But there are other types of attacks that are still possible. And maybe, I don't know, like Casper, you want to just join in and talk about some of them?
Yeah, sure. So like, you perhaps know about the DAO attack, or some attacks where a contract creator may take advantage of the players. So actually, we recently looked at a bunch of these attacks, and they're not the attacks that you can detect easy using the like a regular compiler. I mean, you can, but the compiler needs to be extended with analysis for the code to detect these attacks. And as what we are seeing is that the whole community is learning about these attacks as we go. So people, are creative about exploiting these attacks and bugs in the contracts. And well, basically, we would like to provide these checks in the tooling so that people are aware of any problems and have the opportunity to fix them before the contract gets deployed.
Okay, so I guess what is Quantstamp today, and like what does it aim to be in the future? Like I know you guys are planning on having some sort of independent network after being a token now.
Yeah, so right now we basically allow people to request audits via our website and then pay with QSPs. And what we do is we do a semi-automated audit for them. And right now we're also part of Y Combinator. And as part of Y Combinator, there's something called Demo Day, which is occurring near the end of March. So our team has been focused on delivering, protocol technology for Demo Day. And basically, there's kind of three pieces of that. One is static analysis tools. So this is like tooling for people to easily check their programs. And the second is like, smart contracts for governance. So to allow on-chain upgrades of the basically this voting and governance smart contract. And the third is the node software, which allows people to basically download and run the computation on their own hardware and provide the service to other people. So right now, we're basically taking all the best available software and trying to improve upon that and make it something that's like really easy for people to use.
So I guess with some of the verifications you guys are doing, have you had any kind of funny bugs show up yet, or like just really terrible best practice that you can share?
Yeah. So we've done these like basically literature searches where people have taken tools that we're using, like something is called a symbolic execution tool. What it does is it takes the Solidity source code and runs it in an automated manner to find bugs. And some of these bugs, they show up in a large number of contracts. So there was one study that was done where it was like testing for 7 different type of bugs in one of the tools that we're using called Oyente. And about 25% of the contracts that were tested had one of these bugs. And then after this automated test, and it was basically taking live contracts on the network. This is at the end of 2000. Yeah. So, and they also checked for false positives. So, if people identified that the tool actually identified a bug and it wasn't actually a bug, and the false positive rate was really low, it was only 6%. So like as Quantstamp, we're actually really careful about mentioning like projects that we found bugs on, because it can have a lot of repercussions for the project. So we usually basically tell them over private channels for them to be able to fix it beforehand. It's something that, as a security company, we have to be cognizant about.
Well, it was funny. The most recent issue that happened with parity was we had these new commands on the EVM, and then one guy basically went around sending these commands to pretty much everyone's contract to see if it did anything. And turns out the parity wallet, he was able to basically lock up their multi-sig. I'm not sure if you can elaborate more on that, but I found it was kind of funny of just, oh yeah, like he ended up submitting a bug request of like, yeah, I think I broke your wallet after breaking the wallet.
Yeah, I think, for that one, it's actually, there's kind of multiple issues that came into play. In my understanding, I think that it's actually because when they deployed the new contract, they didn't set some of the initialization parameters that they were supposed to. And then the other issue was that they were actually fixing the original bug as well. So, I think it's actually not a malicious actor that froze that contract. They really had nothing to gain. And, what really happened is that I think the responsibility actually lies both with kind of the developer and also with the community to make a standard for security. So something that I'm trying to do right now is, in the wake of this parity wallet attack, is to make a standards community for security audits. So we're basically working with some really well-known manual security auditing companies to create the first standardized auditing process. It's basically a list of checks that all auditors should do, and also standardized like framework guidelines for coders. Like, a simple kind of guideline is that right now it's better not to use the call function. It's better instead to use the transfer function. And our idea is to actually make this first standardized framework so that it can reduce the number of attacks that happen in the future.
So we have a lot of new faces in the space here, and I'm sure a lot of them are people coming from traditional computer science. So what sort of I guess guidance can you offer people who want to start playing around and developing, and how can they kind of I guess have a little more confidence in building with such new stuff?
Yeah, Casper and Leo, you guys want to take this one? Alex?
Sure. So first, let me add on. Well, actually, I'd like to bridge the previous question with this one. So, like you said, there are a lot of new faces, and a lot of developers. They are used to develop software that is not really exposed to the public in the same way as smart contracts on the blockchain. Because the characteristic of smart contract is that once they're deployed on the blockchain, first of all, they are there forever, and second, everybody can play with them. So anybody can call the public methods that you expose there. So this is like you mentioned earlier, like people even if they have no malicious intentions, they can break the contract if the logic is flawed. Now, when it comes to starting your development adventure, perhaps everybody starts with the Solidity documentation, and I guess with Truffle. Then, of course, you'd like to, well, if you develop the contract, it's not very different in terms of, judging, well, checking for the quality as with the regular software. So basically, you want to have good tests. You want to have a good test suite. Fortunately, there are also tools that help you measuring the code coverage, like with this Solidity coverage tool. You can use Oyente to detect certain known attacks on the contracts. So I would say that's probably good to start. And other than that, well, you can post bounties, or you can ask Quantstamp to verify your smart contract and do a security audit.
Yeah, I have something to add here. One thing that I have noticed is that, so the starting point that people have write smart contracts is to learn Solidity. And the problem with Solidity, if you're learning it the first time, is that if you already have a programming background, more likely you will make certain assumptions of the language, and these assumptions often break. So there are certain nuances of the language that are very important to be learned. And if you don't master those nuances, that's where the trouble is. That's where attackers actually exploit your contract.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think I want to add to that, just like, for, I guess, new developers, right? Coming to this Blocktalk, this is a kind of a great way to kind of get into it as well, just to go to like some meetups and go to some hackathons. And because right now, I feel that the community is actually, the core developer community is still quite small. So you'll easily meet like developers from like leading projects, I would say, like if you go to a lot of these meetups.
Yeah, I know at the space down here at Decontrol, we try and have lots of community hangouts to really share some development tools. The other day there was one for Lightning. So if you're looking to get into Bitcoin development, there's opportunity there to join the meetup space. And then yeah, we are fortunate enough to have some of the Quantstamp guys in house here. I'm not sure if you guys have anything to add to the conversation.
You explain it better than I can.
Yeah, no, we're glad to have you guys. Any questions from the audience here, guys? By all means, feel free to speak up.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
So, do you guys only work on the Ethereum network? Do you guys plan to support other networks like Neo or stuff that comes up that has smart contracts?
Yeah. So I think we have developing a really good reputation in the space. And at this point, we're actually developing really good relationships with emerging new blockchains that are interesting. And at the right time, I think we'll announce those things. But for us, the focus is to kind of leverage our really brilliant engineers and team to build this first product for demo day, because I think maybe like Casper and Leo can go into more of this, is that it's possible to build our technology and then leverage it for other blockchains. What's kind of required is that it depends on the blockchain. So, and kind of it goes to your question, like, do we want to work with Neo? Do we want to work with OneChain? Do we want to work with like all these companies? So some of them, they're actually built on the EVM. So, like Solidity, it compiles into EVM bytecode. And a lot of analysis tools, they're actually analyzing the raw bytecode. So this is like, it's like assembly language code. And if you imagine if it's another blockchain that uses a different type of execution model, like a data flow type model, then that's going to require all new software from our side to be able to analyze it. So in terms of difficulty, anything that's like uses the EVM, for example, Quantum, would be much easier for us to be able to switch our technology over to. And then anything that's like uses something else, we'll basically need to build an intermediate language to be able to translate into. We'll kind of approach it from more like a technical standpoint.
Well, the EVM standard is being used by a lot of different chains. You mentioned, yeah, Quantum and Rootstock, which is doing smart contracts on Bitcoin, and then there's Ubic. It's just a small fledgling project that I hear lots about. So it's definitely like a standard that is being more battle hardened every day and has a lot of resources behind it. So I think that's, yeah, it makes sense that you guys are kind of focusing on the EVM standard. We got a good question here from the YouTube chat. How many requests are you guys able to kind of work through on a given day? I understand there's going to be some variance, but can you give us an idea on like how much throughput you guys are dealing with right now?
Yeah, right now we're getting like we have a large backlog of requests because so right now the idea is that we're doing a very limited number of audits because the audits still require some of our engineering time. So we have a backlog of 55 different major projects that want to do an audit with us. And then from that 55, like actually, I think Krishna can answer like our process. We basically have a really rigorous process for how we decide which projects we're going to audit.
Yeah, actually, most of like mine and Don's job, we sort of like do the audit engagement stuff, and we basically say no to more projects than we can take. I see that as our job to just be the filter that sort of does due diligence on projects and sees which are the ones that are like, we can only do like one or maximum two a month. So we have to like make sure that our standards are stringent and we work with the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where most of our time goes, like building those relationships and finding out, making sure that like everything checks out on the due diligence end.
And I'm sure they're going into more complexity other than just, you know, can you check out my ERC20, make sure I did it right?
Yeah, because we're actually getting a lot of sort of smart contracts that are not token sales. That's actually like, I would say like it's like 60% token sales, 40% non-token sales. And for example, Engine approached us for an audit, and other companies as well. So we really just to pick the most interesting ones and the ones that we believe have the most value to the ecosystem.
So would you guys say you're looking to, I guess, add more people to the team to expand your capability, or there's only so much, I guess, you can do with regards to training and?
Well, yeah, we need a lot more engineers, that's for sure, but it's hard to find them.
Yeah. I think like any developer who's, you know, has like enough years of experience in this space finds themselves not really needing to work at the moment, which is kind of the tragedy of the commons.
And you know, the ones you can't exactly get the ones that are like with the big projects already, because it's you have to convince them to leave. Mm-hmm. So like it's definitely a very tough task to get engineers for auditing smart contracts.
Yeah.
So on the hiring front, I think, you know, actually part of what Krishna has been doing is that you know, we've been actually quite fortunate that we have quite a few different connections in the industry and our networks that we've been kind of hiring on a pretty fast pace. We have like 4 more employees than our current website. And I think, you know, over like the next few months, we're gonna be bringing on even more as well. So, but yeah, it is difficult to find really good Solidity engineers. I would say like we're more looking for engineers that have like distributed computing background or that like currently work at Google and Facebook, you know, they like have really good engineering fundamentals, and we can kind of train them in this one. Yeah.
So what kind of timeline do you guys think for the monitoring network? I know that's kind of only one facet of what you're working on, but can you give us any idea of like what the next year looks like for you?
Yeah, I think the next year it's really divided into kind of 3 sections. So you know, one section is to iterate on the node software. And this allows us to build iterations of our network, monitoring network. And then 2 is like iterations on the smart contract, because we have a smart contract that you know, has been designed to do bounties, and then we have another smart contract for payments and governance. So to deliver these in pieces over like the next 3 to 6 months. Some of that coming on demo day, and then some of that coming after demo day. And then the third piece is to start with basically like token sales and doing bounties on token sales, and then in an automated manner, and then expanding to like more complicated type of smart contracts that have a lot of business logic. Because right now, like the state of development tools in Ethereum is that, for example, Remix, it can handle, you know, maximum of 1 like a smart contract. So you kind of just like copy and paste 1 into it. So we're trying to extend this technology and push it a bit. And I think over the next year, the third goal on top of like this like protocol and smart contract is to deepen our relationships with I would say like Ethereum itself, and also the other core projects that are trying to improve Ethereum. Some of those projects that I really like include like TrueBit, Omise Go, also Consensus as a foundation. I think that, you know, they've been doing a lot of work with Consensus Academy that I think is really interesting. So one of my goals is to actually deepen our relationships with all of those as well. Yeah, so I think, yeah, over the next year, that's basically our plan. And I think in terms of hiring, we'll probably triple the number of members we'll have on our team by the end of the year as well.
Cool. So any more questions in the space here, guys?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, shameless self-promotion, I'm at Technical Abuse on Twitter. And I commend you guys from taking the security approach, because Richard, you said you were a security company. So is that the differentiation between yourself and Open Zeppelin and Solidity X, is that you're going to foster the security side of the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think that that brings a really good point. What we're trying to do is actually exactly like you said, is to kind of foster the security side of the ecosystem. We want to actually build the first open security standard, and also build this first kind of democratization of security knowledge and the ability for anyone to be able to secure their contracts. Right now, how the industry is that it's kind of like for the really wealthy projects to have to pay a lot of money to be able to do this security task. And that's just a function of supply and demand. There's really a handful of companies like Open Zeppelin that can do the service, and they charge a lot. And we're trying to kind of break that model by just democratizing it and putting on it like a on-chain and having anyone be able to do it. Yeah.
Covers it.
Very cool.
I guess the question I have now of just with how fast the space is growing and knowing the history of just black swan events usually happening, and not to try and spread fear around too much, but are there anything that you guys are kind of concerned with at the moment, just in the general industry, that we think we should be keeping a closer eye on?
Yeah, I think how I compare right now is to the internet in 1994. So if you think about internet in 1994, like really young people, they would try to like send emails and go on like really slow websites and play Minesweeper on the internet if they even had it back then. And their parents would be like, why would you ever send an email? Why don't you just pick up your phone and call your friend? Like, they'd answer faster, you'd get more communication done. And I think it's kind of like that because I saw an article this morning in the New York Times where I actually saw a lot of my friends, and the title was like, it's also a kind of people are remarking on the phenomenon of crypto, but the technology is also coming with it. So I would say, like right now in the space is that focusing on the core infrastructure is really key to be able to actually build the internet in 1994. Like you had Netscape come after that, but it was still like a way off before you had the first like really great applications come on. So in terms of like a FUD, there's been FUD since like day one of Bitcoin. There's like this famous website where it's like all the FUD comments for Bitcoin. So I'm kind of in that camp regarding crypto. So yeah. So, but there's one Vancouver project that's really great. It's Axiom Zen CryptoKitties. I actually met the co-founder Mac the other week. Really great guy. I think that's one of the first signs that mainstream in crypto is coming, is when you have these like really easy things to do that are on the blockchain and that maybe like your kids or like high schoolers might be interested in. So
yeah, I mean, on some level, it's just kind of like the Beanie Babies phase is kind of like part of this now, but it still just shows that like once something takes off, it's amazing how much it can spread and be utilized. I know the CryptoKitties gets a lot of flack right now for causing a lot of the scaling issues with Ethereum, mainly because they do some stuff on chain and stuff. So I don't know if you could maybe elaborate on what CryptoKitties could do to do better, if you have any kind of opinions on the matter.
Yeah, I have strong opinions on CryptoKitties. So I actually gave a presentation, and the first part at Coinbase, and probably the first 10 minutes was about CryptoKitties. Their smart contract is written in a really, I would say, really solid manner, and it's a testament to kind of things going viral that they can actually slow down the Ethereum network. I think it's actually a driver because it kind of places more emphasis on scaling. There's been a lot of money that's been made in Ethereum, and I think if more of that goes back into this like R&D, it's actually really helpful. So that's kind of like my view on CryptoKitties. And actually, Mac, he was talking to me about a top secret project that is developing. So CryptoKitties is like chapter 1 of his whole saga. And I think he's going to be announcing his new thing sometime. And yeah, it might crash the network further. So
Lots to look forward to that way. Well, I know one thing I enjoyed with the CryptoKitties is that it helped push a new token standard out, because like the ERC20 is just so ubiquitous in the Ethereum ecosystem. Like everyone's got, you know, their own token now, and it's all based on the same standard. But CryptoKitties is helping to kind of battle test this new one, the ERC 721, I think it is. So do you have, I guess, anything to say about just token standards in general? I'm hearing more about lots of new ones kind of springing up that are hoping to fix underlying problems. But yeah, I don't know if anything's going to outpace the ERC20 standard.
Actually, we were discussing something yesterday, and actually, I think, was it Casper? You made a presentation about ERC20K, right?
Oh, that was Vaji.
It was Vaji. It was our other engineer. But basically, so what they did, so it is a project that focuses on verification of ERC20 tokens. Basically, in that project, they wanted to make sure that it conforms to some of the assumptions about what the ERC20 tokens should be doing, you know, according to the interface. So what they did, so besides the interface, they had some invariants, and they were basically checking whether these invariants are satisfied. Was there more to that work? Remember?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just something to keep in mind whenever we talk about the ERC20, the way people verify the conformance of a given token to that standard is by simply doing a syntax check on the token contract. They don't actually check. There's no current mechanism to check whether the invariants defined by the standard actually hold.
Right. So that work, it was definitely on the formal verification side. But this approach, you know, like one of the issues is that you have, if you create your token, you have to specify it formally in basically their specification language. So as of now, it's definitely an approach that you know, would be used only by experts, I would say. But let's see where things go. We will definitely be you know, on top of that research and all the news.
Yeah, and I think the relevance is like when people release a new token standard, right? For example, this one for CryptoKitties. What Leo was saying was when you have a token standard like this, it's actually an informal specification, meaning that all you have to do to conform to the standard is just write the syntax in the same way. But actually to check to see if like it cannot be broken is there's a deeper level of checks that are actually like tests called invariants that you have to do to make sure that, you know, like this ERC20 token cannot, for example, if like the sum of all the tokens that were given to everyone should be equal to the total balance that's like in that contract. So
right,
kind of a subtle distinction there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and there's ways you can have like kind of additional, I guess, information attached to an ERC20. Like the mini-me was another really interesting one to kind of add more information. Burns a little bit more gas, but it adds a lot more functionality to your basic token without having to, you know, do a lot of overhead. Which is just more utility in the end. But yeah, I'd really like to see some, I guess, more these non-fungible tokens. Like the CryptoKitties was very interesting in terms of trying to create a uniquely identified token, because that's something that could be useful in like supply chain or mortgages and stuff. There's a lot of applications for these different token standards. Any more questions in the space here, guys? Curious about what Quantstamp has to offer, I guess.
Yeah.
Richard was talking earlier about focusing on security for like moving forward. But what do you? I want to ask, what do you see Ethereum's pros against other for moving forward?
Oh, do you mean against other blockchains?
Yeah, the contrast between Ethereum and the other cryptocurrencies for use in general.
So I would say like,
I guess is a better question.
Oh, pardon. Can you repeat the last one?
I guess a better question, or a better way to ask it would be, what are the advantages of Ethereum over the other cryptocurrencies for what you're trying to do?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I think it kind of like there's like three things I can say about that. So one is that there's a network effect when it comes to blockchain. And the reason why there's a network effect is that, for example, Ethereum, I think they have like over 25,000 nodes. And the more nodes you have, it allows you to have a more secure network. And the other thing about the network effect is that there's a large ecosystem of developers around Ethereum that are like improving the language, trying to solve various problems. And that makes it a much stronger place to like try to build a business on top of, because blockchain is moving really quickly. And it's actually like there are so many new blockchain projects out there that it's very hard to be able to, like for me as kind of a business owner, to be able to place my bets on like, oh, this one is going to take off and this one is going to like stay around. So our approach for basically identifying the blockchain to go on is just like, okay, this is the most popular blockchain because Ethereum has more than 2 million smart contracts. And actually, I can just kind of tell you how many there are now. Let's see, account verified contracts. Token. Okay, I need to find it later. But yeah, I think it's more than 2 million. So it's a lot more than all the other emerging blockchains, like Neo, for example. And then the other thing is that there are basically these open source projects that were built on top of like the EVM and Solidity to try to improve it. And some of them include like Y3, which is one of like Ethereum's dev, Yuichi's project, to do a formal specification of Solidity, like a formal type of language. So because we have all of these pieces that the open source community made, it's much easier for us to develop our project and kind of build on the shoulders of giants instead of starting like at zero again. So I think that's kind of the idea.
So I guess going back to the other main network that has a lot of development behind it. So what do you guys think is going on with like Bitcoin right now? Are you guys kind of in the big block camp, or are you thinking that we need to push these second layer twos? Like, what is your opinion, I guess, on the state of Bitcoin today?
I think this one we might give it to Krishna here.
No, I'm actually like very pragmatic about that. So it's really annoying for me to pay so much and wait for so long for like sending a Bitcoin transaction. Network is really exciting. I've spoken to Taylor here a lot about sort of like getting educated on state channels and all that stuff, and I think that's really promising. I just haven't like seen it in action to believe it. So once I do, I think stuff like Lightning Network and Raiden and Plasma will be the future of transmitting money and value. So for dApps especially.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had a laugh the other day of a friend who's like watching some old Andreas Antonopoulos videos of like, yeah, if you want to learn more about Bitcoin, have someone send you like $1 or $2 of it. It's like, oh, I don't think that's gonna work out today.
Yeah, I was actually reading Andreas released this book called The Internet of Money, which is about all the transcripts of his speeches from 2013. And you read there, oh, Bitcoin is so fast, it's so cheap to send around the world. I'm like, okay, the premise of that has completely changed now. So, but I think, yeah, Bitcoin has a network effect that is not it's hard to ignore. And Bitcoin Cash, while it's really cheap to transfer, like it doesn't have that much of a community behind it. And I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I'm like more like an ETH maximalist. But at the same time, I really respect Bitcoin's community because they have like a huge belief, a really high belief in the ethos of Bitcoin, and I think that's very respectable. So I think that's what attracts me to Bitcoin more than the technology aspect.
Yeah, and they have a lot of new science that definitely needs to be built out. Yeah.
And then Bitcoin Cash has all this like, I don't know, it's just the phases of Bitcoin Cash. I feel like you can't trust it.
Yeah, long-term viability maybe is a little bit in question, but it seems like everything right now is just kind of spilling over. Like all the major exchanges are closing off new registrations, so people are just looking for anyone who's willing to take their business. So it's growth is now an issue for us, it seems, which is I think a good problem to have. Like, but yeah, to have it addressed in a timely manner would be kind of nice. Any opinions, I guess, from Caxper or?
Well, okay. Well, so that's just my opinion. So things that first, I think, yeah, I agree with what you said about second layer. I think that in the future, most of the transactions will be happening offline, and then they will be put on the blockchain, once in a while. So definitely not every transaction will have to happen on the blockchain immediately. Other than that, personally, I'm a huge fan of non-blockchain distributed ledgers. So for example, IOTA. I really like their concept of being graph-based because you can attach transactions asynchronously, which is a huge thing in terms of scalability because you don't have to wait like for the clock to tick as you do with attaching blocks to the blockchain. Of course, we will see how this approach will play out in the future. But to me, it looks very, very promising. And other than that, there are other projects that try to do lattices or blockchains of blockchains. And although like they scale better than the blockchains that we know right now, I think that even on top of these old projects, we will still have second layer projects that will do a lot of these transactions first offline and only attach them to the distributed ledger later. I don't know, you have anything else?
Yeah, I have a few comments with regards to Bitcoin being slow. Yes, it is slow, and the cost of transferring money is increasing. But if you compare to the system that is already in place, to the bank system that already works, it's actually cheaper still to use Bitcoin depending on the amount of money that you transfer. So Bitcoin is going to be there for a while, and I just see its place today. And like whenever I have to transfer money overseas, if I use the ordinary bank system, it's just too much of a hassle. Second comment is with regards to other blockchain projects. I'm very skeptical actually. Whether these guys are actually gonna deliver, I don't know. Ethereum is there. It's a solid community. It's a solid foundation. Yeah, there are things that need to be addressed, but they work really hard. So there's a trust on Ethereum that I don't necessarily see in other projects.
Well, I guess that's related to the fact that they've been established, right? Because they started a while back. So they built the trust. So I agree, and the community is larger. Yeah, we will see what will happen with other projects, but I really like to see that people are working on different ideas. They're trying a lot of crazy ideas, and then we will see what is good and what is bad.
Yeah, I kind of agree on the aspect of something like IOTA being it's a completely new way of approaching a distributed system. So it's not a blockchain per se, but these things are all still very new. Like to see them more battle tested before we do international payment on them, but it's still kind of nice that they're in a production environment already. There is a lot of projects that I think are fundraising to be a better Ethereum, but the funny part is they're using Ethereum to fundraise. So it's really they're supporting their own competition. So a long way to go. Like by all means, we're still in a very young ecosystem, but yeah, I'll see about having one of the other ones on Ryblox. I know there's a big developer community or push to have them on the show, so we'll see about having them on in the next week or two. But yeah, the EVM is definitely a standard that's been not only pushed on Ethereum but many other networks. So I can see why you guys are working to help battle test that standard. Is just it adds benefit to not only Ethereum, but the ecosystem as a whole. So I don't know if there's any more questions in the space here, but we can get close to wrapping the show up with our little tradition of trying to predict the price of Bitcoin in a week.
I want to make one comment, I guess. Because we were talking about like next gen blockchains and also Bitcoin. I think actually what we really need is kind of like an open source foundation for these next gen blockchains to try to like support a really good one. And I think like actually what we're trying to do in house is we're doing some due diligence to figure out which one is a good one, and we can probably partner up with other companies who have a vested interest to see this like next gen blockchain. So it's kind of my idea to also have a foundation that just kind of supports this overall effort and not be tied to any specific token or currency. And I think it's more like for the open source technology improvement. So it's kind of like similar to our like the security standard that we're building as well.
Yeah, like we definitely just need more engineering. I think right now there's far too many marketing people in the industry. So more engineers to really build lasting value is kind of crucial.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got our handy Bitcoin chart up here. So Richard, what do you think the prices of Bitcoin is going to be next Saturday in 1 week's time?
Who was right last week?
Well, we haven't done a show in a little while, so it's yeah, we'll have to visit this on the next one.
What's it at right now?
Right now we are at about $14,218. We're going by the Bitstamp price in US dollars.
Okay, well, I've been a trader all my life. It looks like we're a consolidation channel here. So I want to say 15,000.
15,000. Nice round number. Krishna, what do you think?
100K, I said it.
100K.
I'll say 16,000.
16, okay.
1601.
I'm more bullish than Richard.
Jared, yeah.
I think it's gonna be about the same. I think it's be
14,200?
Yeah, 14,200.
Okay. I'm gonna go somewhere in the middle here.
Given this is an Ethereum meetup, can I play the prices right and say $1?
Yeah, you can be the under over for it. Yeah.
$1.
Has anybody heard that Bitcoin they don't think it'll fall below $8,000 US because that's how much it takes to mine one Bitcoin?
Well, the cost of mining is very subjective based on like where you are and what equipment you have. If you're buying like the best of the best with pretty good electricity rate in Canada, it could be like as cheap as like $2,000.
I think they're opening electricity up in Quebec.
Yeah. Yeah, we're very fortunate, I think, to be the new hub for mining.
Building a hydroelectric dam here in British Columbia. Sightseeing, $10 billion.
Oh, sorry, we got to get some of our other guests to predict the price. Casper, what do you think?
I think like 15,500.
15,000. All right, we're all in a pretty tight range here, so that's very interesting.
I'm usually Irish.
14,300.
14,300. Okay. 300.
What happened to this 14.25?
Beauty. Yeah, we'll tweet the results out. I know when we first started this, we were trying to actually get a bidding pool going, but we do it just for fun now. So any closing remarks, I guess, for our live audience and the guys who are tuning in on YouTube?
Yeah, thank you all for watching. Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks, guys. Closing remark. I was actually there. I was sitting in the blue couch over there. And when I was there in August when Krishna and Jared, they were giving a presentation about Ethereum. So there's a lot of history in that room.
Oh yeah, the OGs. Awesome. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsored coin cards, and yeah, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff. We'll have some more guests on. Be sure to tweet anyone you want to have on the show, and we'll see what we can do. And yeah, we'll see you in the next 1,000 blocks.